This is a perfect video to represent why this man is so beloved all across the world. You guys gotta see 10 times that Ricky Gervais silences interviewers and shuts down their woke agenda.
It all started when Ricky appeared on Ellen's show. He was accused of provoking for attention, but instead of dodging, he leaned in with humor.
I mean, obviously you love her, she's your girlfriend, but you tweet out some things that are controversial and a lot of people, don't like it. Do you care that people get offended?
No, because I never try to offend people. I never try to hurt people's feelings. I make jokes.
Yeah.
And I just think, people say, oh, why'd you go to so much trouble to offend people? And I say, it's no trouble. It's no trouble. It's easy. It's too easy.
It really is easy.
It is easy, isn't it, these days? It's easier and easier.
However, he wasn't just there to entertain. Ricky explained that humor, at its core, is about facing the dark stuff head-on.
That's what humour's for. It gets us over bad stuff. Yeah. If you can't joke about bad stuff, what kind of that's exactly what it's for. Yeah. You know, it sharpens our claws. You know, it makes us it keeps us fighting fit for the real world.
It also gives you license as either an entertainer or as a public figure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because
it helps you understand things.
Yeah.
As well. I think it was a Picasso that said art is a lie that helps you understand the truth.
Still, many celebrities apologize to protect their image. Ricky? Not interested.
A comedian or
well, it doesn't make sense to apologise for a joke because
maybe you mentioned that with Kevin Hart.
Mean it anyway. Yeah. What are you apologising for? What are you? I don't get it. You know, and I think most apologies are because they're scared of. Like I see actors apologise for something they said because they got a film coming out. The studio have said, "Well, we paid you 10 million. You better say sorry." And they go, "Okay, I'm sorry." They don't mean it. You know, you're an adult. You meant to say it. It was a joke. I don't know what you're apologising for because you don't mean that either. You just mean, "Oh, let me carry on." You don't really mean, "I'm sorry for saying it." You mean, "Please let me carry on."
Right.
And when labeled controversial, Ricky doesn't deny it. Instead, he makes a sharper point. Controversial doesn't mean wrong.
So you just said now stand-up's great because there's nobody interfering, and you're obviously renowned for speaking what you think, and you're probably one of the most controversial comics out there. Do you feel in the industry today there's a real movement to be more sensitive and hold back and being afraid of offending people?
Well, firstly, if someone says you're controversial, they're only right by definition because they've said it. I think, Darwin was controversial when he came up with the origin of the species. You know, I think people lump you in with shock comedians who try and hurt people's feelings or say things that they're like trolls.
Offense. Ricky believes it's not real harm, just a reaction.
I'm always sort of doing it for a reason. And I've always said just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right. Some people are offended by equality. I'm never trying to offend. I don't know. I think I got that reputation from the Golden Globes, maybe, where I gently ribbed some of the richest, most privileged, beautiful people in the world.
And they couldn't take it.
But I mean, if I can justify every joke. I can justify, and I think some people get offended when they mistake the subject of the joke with the actual target, particularly when you're dealing with taboo subjects. And I do deal with taboo subjects for a reason, because I want to take the audience to that place they hadn't been before.
So Ricky's not just saying these things for the heck of it. He actually believes in the joke and he thinks it's funny himself. That's why he's saying it. Isn't that what you want out of a comedian or an entertainer? Somebody who doesn't take himself that seriously, someone who understands we all have a finite amount of time on this earth, and you might as well just say what you believe and believe what you say, and if the expense of that is offending some snowflake, then so be it. He finds it funny, so he's gonna ride with that to the end. And when he was on the Golden Globes, it was kind of like an earth-shattering thing to a lot of celebrities because they have only been idolized by the public for years upon years. There's a lot of people out there in the world today that consider these celebrities gods. And for Ricky Gervais to go into their forum and basically knock them down a peg, you're not these infallible beings who do no wrong. You're just like you and I, and you need to get off your high horse. I think that's when Ricky Gervais really went to the mainstream, and that's when everyday average people saw it and said, you know what? I freaking love this guy. He tells it how it is.
Hi guys, Ricky G here.
wellness and beauty influencer. As a celebrity, I know all about stuff, like science and politics. So trust me when I tell you who you should vote for. If you don't vote the right way, that's like a hate crime. It makes me sad and angry, and I'll leave the country. And you don't want that.
He's heard "I'm offended" far too often. But for him, that's not an argument, just background noise.
And one thing you're good for, and you alluded to now, is you're not afraid of dividing opinion. You're not afraid of, some people saying I disagree with you and some people saying I agree with you. Is that something that's become more the case as you've gone on your career and you've been more successful?
Well, again, it's if everyone's agreeing with you, you're in an echo chamber. You've just chosen your people to speak to. I'm just tired of people saying I'm offended. I want to say, so what? That just means you're just telling me your feelings. I was like, I've got a pain in my knee. What do we do about it?
Of course, someone had to ask, how would The Office fare today? Ricky didn't hesitate.
20 years since The Office and your big breakthrough with that series.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I wonder if that were to be launched today and seen for the first time today, how would it be received?
I think it would be received the same way, but there'd just be more complaints because that's some people's job nowadays, is to complain and be heard and be offended and try to get things cancelled. And I think a lot of it is totally fake outrage because they're shouting out of a window.
He also challenged the myth that political correctness helps comedy.
I mean, I think a lot of offence comes from people mistaking the subject of a joke with the actual target, because, you can't legislate against stupidity. But you have to ignore it and you have to stick to your guns. And there's things that, 15 years ago that were really right on and woke and ironic and, ridiculing those things. But now people are taking them on face value and they're ignoring the context, ignoring the satire, ignoring the irony. And they know full well that it came from a good place. But I think people just want to cause a ripple.
But critics often miss the point. Satire requires nuance and irony, intelligence.
First of all, I think political correctness is good per se. I don't want people going around saying terrible things and hurting people's feelings all the time, particularly politicians. Right? But in art, it's different, and a joke is very different. It's a very different thing. And when the offence comes, it's usually because they've mistaken the target of the joke with the subject, and they're not necessarily the same thing, particularly with irony. And with irony, you're purposely saying the wrong thing, and you're hoping that people are sensible and intelligent enough to get it and laugh at the stupid attitude. So confusion comes, okay? But you can't legislate against stupidity. You can only water satire down so much until it's not satire anymore.
That's why he believes everything should be open to ridicule. Because comedy, he argues, is how we grow.
I know. But people then they go, yeah, but you shouldn't hurt people's feelings. Well, you can if their feelings are wrong.
If
you don't like the facts, don't change the facts, change the feelings.
Yeah.
And also they try and do this thing. Oh, you should never punch down. You should punch up. Well, who's to say what's up and down is?
Yeah, it's a subjective.
So you're deciding who's down and who's up. No. You don't get to do that.
Ricky thinks we've gotten too soft and way too entitled.
And people feeling uncomfortable in the States is a big thing with sort of target words and safe zones. People don't want to hear a word that they don't like.
How arrogant are you to think that you deserve to go through life with no one ever saying anything that you don't agree with or like? If you're so fragile that you think that a joke about someone can destroy it, well, you need something else then. Yeah. It's nonsense. And now people saying, people mistake sometimes demanding equality, right, by not being part of humour.
Yeah.
It's actually demanding privilege.
That's a beautiful line right there, and I never thought of it that way. By demanding that you are excluded from being joked about, you yourself are asking for privilege that nobody else should be entitled to. As far as I'm concerned, everybody and every single thing can be joked about. Because guess what? Humor is subjective. What's funny to you might not be funny to me, and what's funny to her might not be funny to him. So you have to recognize there's different strokes for different folks. Just because you find it funny or you find it offensive does not mean that the grand population is all agreeing with you in unison. The thing about wokeness as well is that it's a pendulum. We got so far to the radical left, the censorships, the silencing of comedians, digging into someone's past 20 years, hoping to find a little bit of dirt so that you can completely ruin somebody's career. That's how far we had gone, just because you did not like somebody's joke. You have to get back to the point in society where if you don't agree with it, just don't watch it. How sad of a life do you have to live to go out of your way, spend your time and energy trying to bring somebody else down instead of building yourself up? That's what really aggravated me the last couple of years when wokeness was getting out of control. But thankfully that pendulum is on its way back and we are reverting back to common sense, thanks in large part due to Ricky Gervais.
Always about what happens now either. It can be about what happened 20 years ago as the office.
Oh, it's ludicrous. Kevin Hart did some tweets 10 years ago that he deleted and apologised for at the time, and then he lost his job as host for the Oscars because he wouldn't apologise again. And he's right, because if there's no value to saying sorry and moving on, well, you might as well not change. You might as well carry on. And I just think there's this punishment. People want blood. It's just about
it's always a life sentence, isn't it?
Yeah, it always comes back to haunt you. You can never, saying sorry isn't enough.
He argues that not all offense should be erased, but sometimes it's just not valid.
But there's nothing you can say that someone somewhere won't find offensive. Sometimes they've got a point. The thing is about offences, it's not about right and wrong. It's about feelings, and feelings are personal. So it's about controlling your own emotions. I find things offensive. I find loads of things offensive.
What do you find offensive?
Animal cruelty. It makes my blood boil. I want to batter the person who hurts them. But what can I do except try and educate, or not watch a show that has something I don't like? But I think about words and jokes, I think that's a very different matter. I think that's so subjective.
At one point, someone asked if he worried about being cancelled. His answer, calm and unshaken.
Are you ever worried about getting cancelled in terms of what you say? You're talking about an idea coming into your head and then having to maybe sort of move it around a little bit. Is that... Well, I think a lot of comedians, or probably sitcoms and stuff like that, it's like... Do you know what I mean?
I'm aware of it, but I think I can justify everything, because I don't go out there and just say the first thing that goes in my head thinking there's no consequence. I don't do that. So I've got to be able to justify it. Everything I do, I've got to be able to go, this is why it's okay.
Right.
To Ricky, what offends people usually isn't offensive. It's just uncomfortable truth dressed up as jokes.
A lot of it seems worse than it actually is. If you analyse it, it's not that bad. It's just because you're dealing with contentious subjects and buzzwords, and people go, oh, like that. But if you look at the joke, it's fine. It's fine. And I like doing that. I like dealing with taboo subjects, because I want to take the audience to a place they haven't been before. It's like I'm taking them by the hand, and it's through a scary forest, but it's all right in the end. We can all laugh about it. And I think that's what comedy's for, really, to get you through scary things.
For him, controversy isn't a risk, it's the job.
Also, what is being cancelled, some people didn't like it. Fine. I don't know what getting cancelled is. I think you have to actually break the law to be properly cancelled. Otherwise, some people didn't like it. That's fine.
He didn't just roast Hollywood, he torched their fake activism.
People of colour were snubbed in major categories. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. The Hollywood foreign press are all very, very racist. So, 5th time. So, we were going to do an in memoriam this year, but when I saw the list of people that had died, it wasn't diverse enough. No. It was mostly white people. And I thought, nah, not on my watch. So, maybe next year. Let's see what happens.
Later, when asked about the lack of women in his special, Ricky didn't apologize. He made a joke.
So I want to ask you about the HBO special, Talking Funny. We just saw a clip from it, right? So we got Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Louis C.K. No women comedians on that panel?
Who would you replace?
I don't know.
Replace or add?
No, because it was 4 people.
There's just 4 people.
Yeah, so who would you take off?
I wouldn't. I would just add.
There you go.
Some on the panel didn't get it, but that didn't stop him.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're my friends, and I chose my friends. Oh, and also, men are intimidated by funny women, so we didn't want them in the room.
Is that right?
That was a joke.
I take everything you say seriously. You know, Jerry Lewis famously said at one point that he didn't think women were funny. Do you think women are funny?
Of course, what's the difference? That's ridiculous.
It's a different sensibility.
Statistically, less women go into stand-up from what I've seen, so there's probably less to choose from.
Right.
But yeah, there are loads of funny women. I've worked with loads of funny women. Of course I have. There's loads of funny women here.
In fact, when called sexist just moments later, Ricky dismantled the label with ease.
Let me read one thing they thought was mean, and we'll decide whether it was mean or not, okay? Referring to Sex and the City 2, you said, I was sure the Golden Globe would go to the team that airbrushed that poster.
Yeah.
A little sexist.
No, it's not. Why is it sexist?
Well, because you're saying that the girls are older and they need to be airbrushed.
No, I think they look great at their age.
Oh.
Why hide it?
Oh.
I don't think that you lose your sensuality or your beauty because you hit 53. I'm saying, why are they hiding it?
That argument doesn't even make sense. Somehow he's sexist for saying that they airbrushed the photo. Anybody with eyes can tell that they airbrushed that photo. It's completely photoshopped to make the woman look younger and more beautiful. But the thing is, Ricky's basically calling it out, saying you don't need to do that. You should just present yourself as you are. That's all Ricky's going for. But he really stood up and came out at a time when he was most needed. It reminds me of the Batman movies. He was not the hero that we deserved, but he was the hero that we needed. In the years following COVID, 2021, 22, 23, the world was in a frenzy. Everything was going crazy. If you said anything controversial in your past, you were getting silenced. People were getting taken off of social media. There was never more of a time when the First Amendment was under attack. And who came out front and center to fight back against all this? Ricky Gervais. And he didn't just fight back on the interview circuit. He went to the Golden Globes. He went into the lion's den where the celebrities are, where the elite people are. And he basically said, you're all hypocrites. Every last one of you guys. You are not special. You are just like everybody else in this world. And that's the God's honest truth. One person is not superior over another person just because they have a few more dollars in the bank. Everybody deserves to have their own opinion and say whatever they want to say. And the thing is, if you don't agree with what somebody else has to say, don't listen. That's the great thing about life. You don't have to just sit there and take it. You can actually debate it with facts and logic, or you can move away. And the talk about whether The Office could ever be made today, I'll tell you right now, it can't. Can you name the last television comedy that was a success? I can't think of any successful TV comedy in the last decade, and that's frightening to me. I feel like comedy peaked around 2007 to like 2012. That was the golden age because people just said whatever, and if it offended you, so what? They didn't care. We need to get that energy back because the era of political correctness and not saying what you believe because you don't want to offend somebody is a cancer and a poison. We need to just evolve and say, you know what? I don't care anymore. And it's really sad to see because Joey Swole, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's a famous Instagram influencer. He's got millions of subscribers. He was working out in Hulk Hogan clothes in memory of him because he just passed away. And then his comment section were filled with the woke mob saying, how could you possibly do that? Hulk Hogan did this 34 years ago. How can you possibly support this man? And then he came back the next day and was crying and groveling, saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Stand your ground. Never apologize to the woke mob because it is never enough. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. Who do you think were the guys fighting back and fighting for free speech in the last 5 or so years? Let me know some guys. I'd love to hear that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Until next time.